All right, we got a very special guest for the Rocky Mountain Fantasy Podcast this week. Good friend of mine. I've played golf with this man. He's one of the few guys I go up to and talk to, and he gives me the time of day at the races. It's Marshal Weltin. Marshall, how we doing?
Good. How are you?
Dude, I'm good, man. You made it into the mains in Glendale. It was hectic. But tell us about your program this year, because you've been racing a 450, but you just raced a 250. Now you're going back to a 450. You're all over the map.
Yeah, not the traditional way to do it. I kind of just have been taking it as it comes. The original plan was to do 250 West with the Gizmo Mods Rock River team. Things didn't really fall into play there, so I started on the 450. And ultimately, the goal for me and the team is to be in the SMX championship at the end of the year. So it wasn't like a big deal starting on the 450 like for that reason, but we ended up getting the 250 finished early January and getting everything ready. And I wanted to I just, with how things were shaping up, like in the 450 class, I felt really good on the 450, and I just wanted to put more time on that coming into outdoors. Maybe I can get a few points in SX, make a few more main events on the 450 East Coast, make a few points there so I can come in with a little boost into that playoff championship.
Right on. So going along with this 250, 450 deal, I have heard that a 450 is much harder to set up for Supercross. I don't really know too much about the moto side of it, but compared to a 250, a 450 is just much more finicky. It's harder to dial it in and get it set up just right. Is that true?
It depends who you have in your corner for resources and what you can, like, who you have to help, tune your bike. I think, the options are endless, like with any bike. I don't think it matters one way or the other. I know the top 250 guys are throwing just as much time into their bike as the top 450 guy is. When the championship's on the line, the top guys have a championship on the line. For me, setting up a bike, I think it's about the same amount of work, on each end. It's more just getting the tuning right with the electronics and the gearing and the balance of the bike, where on the 250, you're trying to get the most power out of it as you can always. So it's like different areas where you're searching. But they're both, it's just getting that 450 to be rideable because there's so much power. So it's just where you can put the power to the ground.
Who would you say is better right now if you could even pick between Tomac and Sexton? Because I think with Jet tearing the ACL, I think the two fastest guys I would say are clearly now Eli and Sexton. Do you think either one of those guys has any sort of speed advantage at this current time?
I think Eli has more of a he's got more of a ceiling than Sexton does, just because of how Eli is. I don't think he's proven to yearly shock people, just like all of a sudden throw down a lap 2 seconds a lap faster out of nowhere.
Right.
He has that unknown speed, where Chase, I think he's going to find it by going like, he's going to click off 3/10, 2/10, and he's just going to like marginally get there every time. Where Eli, he's just going to go, Eli mode. And I think it's pretty equal with their speed potential. I don't think one's really better than the other, but I think it's just when they're going to do it, like when they feel it, whenever they, who pulls out the bigger jump and who is more aggressive that night, feels more comfortable on the track.
When Jet pulled off and he's just circulating the track in that third race, Tomac, Sexton, all these guys are going around. I'd be curious to know, one, if they're even too locked in that they don't even realize that's Jet just rolling around the track, or if they do see that, and if that has any sort of change in their mental psyche for the rest of that race. What do you think?
No, they're in such a mode when the gate drops. I don't think anything else matters besides exactly what they're doing.
So there's no like holy hell, like Jet's pulling, like Jet just left. He's Like none of that you think crosses their mind?
No, I don't think so.
Wow.
I think there's too many other good guys in the 450 class to be worrying about the one rider going out. I mean, it's a dogfight from. I mean, you saw how good Justin Hill rode too.
Oh,
Like
unreal.
one to he passed Broxton back at one point. It was like whoa, and I don't think that one person really played an issue with it.
Dude, how about the track though? So this has been a talking point since everyone came back from Glendale. I've heard some riders said it was too big. Some riders said that they liked the flow, that it was fun. Is it not necessarily that it was the obstacles were undoable or dangerous, more than if you made a small mistake on one of the say, and really I don't know if there's anything else besides that quad or the big double coming across the finish line. Is it just because the risk is so much higher if something does go wrong on those two obstacles?
See, after racing all the tracks, I don't see Glendale as being much more like big as it's not really any bigger than A2 was. I mean, the jumps at A2, there's some really big jumps at A2 and also San Diego.
Yeah.
Track builders are keeping it pretty much on par. I just think the consistency of a big track every weekend is now like compounding to be like, oh wow, like I mean, that one jump across the start straight, I think it made it look spectacular because they popped up in the air so high.
Right.
But I don't think it, as far as like the jump, like the quad after the finish line was huge. Whenever you go like over 4 jumps,
Yeah.
4 singles, it's always big, no matter what. But I don't really see. They're for sure building things taller this year. As far as like the height of the jump, and that amplifies it as a racer. When you add more height to the landing or the takeoff, it always kind of is a little more intimidating, and that brings in the factor for the 4 or to do an extra triple in some areas. But I don't see the track as being like bigger than any of the previous ones. San Diego was maybe there's some smaller jumps in San Diego, but as far as A1, A2, and Glendale, they're all pretty much the same height. The builders are being pretty consistent with it.